As the years pass, there's a shift that needs to happen, one that many resist, but it's necessary if you want to live with dignity and peace. When you were younger, maybe you spent too much time worrying about what others thought, chasing approval, bending over backward to fit into roles that weren't truly yours. But now, in this stage of life, it's time to let go of all that nonsense. The truth is, people's opinions of you were never as important as you once believed. The weight you carried, the expectations you tried to meet, most of them weren't even yours to begin with. They were imposed upon you by society, by family, by peers, who were just as lost as you were. And what did all that effort bring? A fleeting sense of acceptance? A temporary nod of approval? None of that lasts. None of it ever really mattered. Now, you stand at a point where the only thing that truly matters is how you take care of yourself, your mind, your body, your spirit. Because if you don't, no one else will. That's not cynicism, that's reality. People are wrapped up in their own lives, they have their own problems, their own struggles. And if you keep waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to put yourself first, you'll be waiting forever. So stop looking outside for permission. Prioritize your health. Take care of what you eat, how you move, how you rest. If you don't respect your own well-being, why should anyone else? And beyond the physical, there's the mental aspect. That's where so many get trapped. They spend their later years replaying old failures, dwelling on what they could have done differently, or worse, seeking validation from people who hardly think about them. That's a tragic way to live. Regret is a poison, and the only antidote is acceptance. You can't change the past, but you can refuse to let it define you. The same goes for worrying about how others perceive you now. Let them think what they want. Let them misunderstand you. Their opinions do not dictate your worth. Silence, in many ways, becomes your greatest ally. Not everything needs to be explained. Not every criticism needs a response. When you prioritize yourself, when you finally take control of your own peace, you'll find that most arguments, most debates, most efforts to prove yourself are utterly pointless. You are not here to entertain other people's judgments. You are not obligated to meet their expectations. What you are responsible for is your own growth, your own sense of fulfillment. Do things that nourish you, that bring you joy, even if no one else understands. Maybe that means picking up an old hobby. Maybe it's spending more time in nature, reading books that expand your mind, or simply learning to enjoy solitude without feeling lonely. Solitude, when embraced, is a powerful thing. It's where clarity emerges. It's where you truly get to know yourself, stripped of all the noise and distractions. And the beauty of it all, when you stop seeking validation, you gain something far greater, self-respect. And with that comes a quiet, unshakable confidence, the kind that doesn't need applause or approval because it's rooted in something real. So take care of yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a necessary way. Because when you do, you become a person who moves through life with a kind of strength that no one can take away. And that is the ultimate freedom. There's something about silence that unsettles people. Most can't stand it. They rush to fill every moment with words, with noise, with distractions. They believe that talking, explaining, justifying, arguing, these things give them control. But more often than not, it's the opposite. The more you speak, the more you reveal, the more you give away, and sometimes the more you weaken yourself without even realizing it. There comes a time in life when you need to understand that not everything needs a response. Not every opinion deserves your energy. Not every argument requires your participation. In fact, the more you engage with unnecessary conflict, the more you allow others to dictate your emotions. And for what? To prove a point? To make sure they understand your side? Most people aren't even listening. They're just waiting for their turn to speak. They've already made up their minds, and no amount of talking will change that. That's where silence becomes powerful, because silence, true deliberate silence, is not weakness, it's control. It's the refusal to be pulled into meaningless exchanges. It's the discipline to hold your ground without having to announce it. When you stop reacting to every little thing, you start to notice something. People begin to respect you more. They sense that you're not easily swayed, that you don't waste your breath on things that don't matter. And that kind of presence, that kind of restraint, it speaks louder than any words ever could. Think about the people you admire most. Are they the ones who constantly seek attention, who argue endlessly, who need to be the loudest in the room? Or are they the ones who speak only when necessary, who choose their words carefully, who don't feel the need to prove themselves to anyone? Strength is quiet. Wisdom is quiet. And in old age, when you've already seen and experienced enough, there's nothing more powerful than knowing when to stay silent. There will always be those who test you, who try to provoke a reaction, who want to drag you into their chaos, but you don't have to participate. You don't have to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't have to justify your choices to those who have no interest in seeing your perspective. You don't owe them your energy. Instead, redirect that energy inward. Observe more, listen more, let people reveal themselves through their own words, through their own behavior. You'll learn more by watching than by engaging in endless debates. You'll see who is worth your time and who isn't. You'll understand that most battles are won not by overpowering the opponent, but by refusing to step into the ring in the first place. And this isn't about arrogance. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about self-respect. It's about recognizing that your peace is worth more than proving a point. And there's a certain dignity in silence, in knowing that you don't have to chase after validation, in understanding that real power comes from restraint. So let others talk, let them assume, let them misunderstand you if they must. Their perception of you is not your responsibility. What is your responsibility is how you carry yourself, how you protect your peace, how you choose where to invest your words and your time. Life has a way of pulling you into unnecessary battles. People drag you into their conflicts, their gossip, their endless cycle of complaints and problems. And if you're not careful, you end up spending your energy on things that have absolutely nothing to do with you. But here's the truth. Most of it isn't worth your time. Not every problem needs your attention. Not every fight needs your participation. And the sooner you learn to detach from all that noise, the more peace you'll have. As you get older, you realize that so much of what people stress about is meaningless. Arguments that go in circles, people holding grudges over things that don't even matter anymore, trying to prove who's right, who's wrong. It's exhausting. And yet, so many waste their final years caught up in the same pointless drama they were tangled in decades ago. But you don't have to. You can choose to step away. You can choose to focus on what actually adds value to your life instead of being sucked into the chaos of others. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you turn your back on people you love. It means you recognize the difference between being supportive and being dragged into problems that aren't yours to solve. It means understanding that some people thrive on conflict, and no matter how much advice you give, no matter how many times you try to fix things, they'll always find a way to stir up more trouble. That's not your burden to carry. You don't owe anyone your peace. And here's something most won't tell you. When you stop engaging in drama, people will notice. Some won't like it. They'll try to pull you back in. They'll accuse you of being distant, of not caring. But that's just their way of trying to keep you in the same cycles they're stuck in. Don't fall for it. Real strength is knowing when to walk away. Real wisdom is understanding that your energy is too valuable to waste on things that drain you. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to justify why you're choosing peace over conflict. Just step back. Let them talk. Let them make their assumptions. The people who truly matter will understand. The ones who don't, well, they were never worth the effort in the first place. Instead of getting caught up in arguments, choose silence. Instead of engaging in negativity, focus on things that make your life better. Read more, walk more, create something, learn something, spend time with people who uplift you, not those who constantly bring you down. You'll be amazed at what happens when you let go of the unnecessary, when you stop trying to change people who don't want to change, when you stop explaining yourself to those who aren't listening, when you stop giving your time to conflicts that don't serve you. You become lighter. You gain clarity. You realize how much time you wasted on things that never really mattered. And that's the point. To live these years with intention, with purpose, not weighed down by other people's chaos, not stuck in the same toxic loops, but free. Free to focus on what truly matters. Free to move forward without carrying unnecessary baggage. Free to finally live on your own terms. Because at the end of it all, peace is the greatest luxury. And it's one you can only have when you stop giving your energy to things that deserve it. At a certain point in life, you have to ask yourself what really matters. Not in a shallow, passing way, but in a deep, honest examination of where you've been, where you are, and where you're headed. For decades, you were busy. You worked, you built, you sacrificed. You poured your energy into responsibilities, into meeting expectations, into fulfilling roles that at times felt more like obligations. And now you have the chance to do something different. Now you have the chance to turn inward, to invest in something far more valuable than status or recognition. Your own growth, your own peace. Most people never do this. They don't stop long enough to reflect. They don't step back and examine who they've become or what they actually want. They keep running even when there's nowhere left to run. They distract themselves with noise, with busyness, with the opinions of others because facing themselves, truly facing themselves, feels uncomfortable. But that discomfort, that's exactly where transformation begins. Inner growth doesn't happen by accident. It's a deliberate choice. It requires effort, just like anything else worth having. And it starts with being honest about what's weighing you down. Maybe it's unresolved resentment. Maybe it's the habit of worrying about things that are beyond your control. Maybe it's the fear of being alone with your thoughts. Whatever it is, ignoring it won't make it disappear. You have to confront it, process it, and let it go. That's the only way to make room for peace. And peace, real, lasting peace, isn't something you stumble upon. It's cultivated. It's built through discipline, through daily choices, through shifting your focus from the external to the internal. It means spending time in silence, not out of avoidance, but out of intention. It means reading books that challenge your thinking instead of consuming mindless distractions. It means engaging in practices that ground you, whether it's walking, meditating, journaling, or simply sitting in stillness and allowing your mind to settle. But most of all, it means no longer allowing yourself to be at war with yourself. How much of life is wasted in self-criticism, in regret, in replaying old mistakes? Too much, far too much. And none of it changes the past. None of it serves you. What does serve you is learning to forgive, not just others, but yourself. Accept that you did the best you could with the knowledge and circumstances you had. Accept that mistakes were lessons, not life sentences. Accept that growth doesn't come from beating yourself up, but from learning and choosing differently moving forward. This is the stage of life where you get to reclaim your time, your thoughts, your energy. You no longer have to chase. You no longer have to prove anything. You get to focus on what truly matters: wisdom, depth, meaning. You get to invest in relationships that nourish you and walk away from those that drain you. You get to prioritize joy without guilt, to embrace stillness without feeling like you should be doing something more. And the irony of it all, the moment you stop seeking peace from the outside world is the moment you realize it was within you all along. You just had to clear away the distractions to see it. So take this time, use it wisely. Don't waste another moment caught up in things that don't align with the person you're becoming. Because at the end of it all, the greatest investment you will ever make is in yourself. And the return, a life that finally feels like your own. There's a weight that people carry, often without even realizing it. It's not something you can see, but you can feel it. It lingers in the quiet moments, in the spaces between conversations, in the thoughts that surface late at night when there's no one around to distract you. Regret, guilt, the echo of past mistakes, missed opportunities, things you wish you had said or done differently. And if you're not careful, that weight can follow you for a lifetime. It can shape the way you see yourself. It can dictate the way you move through the world. It can keep you stuck in a story that no longer serves you. But here's the truth. There's nothing you can do to change the past. Not 1 second of it. No amount of replaying events in your mind, no amount of self-blame, no amount of wishing things had gone differently will alter what has already happened. And yet so many people refuse to let go. They keep themselves bound to old wounds, to people who have long since moved on, to moments that can never be rewritten. Why? Because it's familiar, because as painful as it is, holding on to the past feels safer than stepping into the unknown. But ask yourself, how much longer are you willing to carry it? How much more time are you willing to give to something that cannot be changed? The years ahead of you are precious, and they deserve better than to be overshadowed by things that no longer exist. Letting go doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It doesn't mean dismissing the lessons you've learned. It means acknowledging what was, accepting that it cannot be undone, and choosing, yes, choosing to release its grip on you. It means recognizing that your mistakes, your failures, even your deepest regrets do not define you. They were moments in time, not a life sentence. And forgiveness, real forgiveness, has to start with yourself. People struggle with this. They hold themselves to impossible standards, punishing themselves for being imperfect, for making choices that, in hindsight, seem foolish. But of course, they seem foolish now. You're looking at them with the wisdom of experience. You didn't have that then. You did the best you could with what you knew at the time. And that has to be enough. Other people, that's a different challenge. There will always be those who wronged you, who hurt you in ways that left scars. And maybe they never apologized, maybe they never even acknowledged what they did. That's hard. But holding on to resentment does nothing to them. It only poisons you. It keeps you tethered to a pain that should have loosened its grip long ago. You don't have to excuse what happened. You don't have to pretend it didn't hurt. But you do have to decide whether you're going to let it control you. And if you're waiting for the perfect closure, the perfect apology, the perfect resolution, you might be waiting forever. Let go anyway. Not for them, but for you. There's freedom in release. There's lightness in deciding that you are more than your past, that your future is still yours to shape. And when you finally put down the weight you were never meant to carry, you realize just how much it was holding you back. So stop waiting. Stop looking back. The road ahead is open, but only if you choose to walk it unburdened. At some point, you have to stop living for everyone else. You have to stop waiting for permission to enjoy your life. Because the truth is, no one is going to hand it to you. No one is going to come along and say, all right, you've done enough, now it's your turn. If you don't decide that for yourself, you'll spend your remaining years in the same pattern, sacrificing your time, your energy, your joy for people who might not even notice, for obligations that don't truly matter, for expectations that were never yours to begin with. But what happens if you step back? If you stop asking what others want from you and start asking what you want? Maybe you've never done that before. Maybe you've spent so much time serving others, meeting demands, living according to a script you didn't write, that the idea of living life on your own terms feels foreign, even selfish. But it isn't selfish. It's necessary. If you don't claim this time for yourself, if you don't take ownership of the years you have left, then who will? So do the things that make you feel alive. Read the books that interest you, not the ones others think you should read. Spend time in places that bring you peace. Surround yourself with people who make you feel good about being yourself, not those who drain you, not those who guilt you into staying in situations you've long outgrown. Stop explaining yourself. Stop seeking approval. Stop justifying why you want to live differently than before. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing your own happiness. And the irony? When you finally let go of the need to please, when you stop molding yourself to fit the expectations of others, that's when life starts to feel real. That's when you start to understand what it means to be free. Not in some grand dramatic way, but in the quiet satisfaction of knowing that for once you are living exactly as you were meant to. Because at the end of it all, you don't want to look back and realize you spent your final years waiting. You want to look back and know you truly lived. At this stage of life, the greatest gift you can give yourself is freedom. Freedom from unnecessary burdens, from the need for validation, from conflicts that drain you, from the weight of the past. It's time to shift your focus inward, to care for yourself in ways you once neglected, to embrace the silence and wisdom that come with age. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every explanation is worth giving. And not every person deserves access to your energy. When you learn to let go of regret, of meaningless drama, of expectations that were never truly yours, you make space for something far more valuable: peace. And with that peace comes clarity. You see that life was never about meeting every demand placed upon you. It was never about making everyone else comfortable while sacrificing your own well-being. It was about becoming someone you respect, someone who moves with intention, someone who chooses joy, wisdom, and self-respect over noise and obligation. So as you step forward, do it on your own terms. Live fully, without hesitation, without guilt. Speak only when necessary, walk away when needed, and never waste another moment explaining yourself to those who were never meant to understand you. Because the time you have left is yours, and there is no greater responsibility than making sure it is lived well.